Hey guys, I got time for a real quick tip here. 2009 Infiniti FX35 3.5 liter. Changing out some front hubs. Oh boy, did I get lucky. I took out the wheel speed sensor just so I could clean the bore easier. Thankfully it came out, because if it didn't, I would have destroyed that. This bearing here has got this kind of protector, this little cap that sits around. Let me show you on the new one, a little easier to see. So hopefully you can see there that inside there, that is the exciter for the ABS sensor. So this little protective cap just kind of sits over top of that. Now I don't know if that will affect the pickup from that sensor on this tone wheel, right? So if I were to take that right off, it's possible that might affect the sensitivity of the sensor, and it might affect the signal going to the ABS module. I don't know. So I'd rather keep it on there. If you look at the old one, it has it on there. However, on this new part, you see those windows? Well, those have to line up with where the sensor sticks through. Otherwise, if it's not lined up, which this new part, it was not lined up in any position. If you just shove it on through, you will smash that sensor and destroy it. So not only do you need to make sure that you are, if you get a better part, I don't know, maybe this is just a cheap part, but if we look at the original, if we were to pull this out, and if we were to install this the wrong way, which you can, it'll go in either way, same thing would happen. You would take out that sensor. So you have to make sure that one of these windows lines up with that sensor. So let me set it up and I'll kind of show you if I can. Okay, so I don't have the bolts in yet, but you know what? I need to put that dust shield in there first. This is just to kind of demonstrate. So if we look through there, hopefully that'll come out. If we were to push that in with the bolts, if we were to have that sensor in, that would be hitting one of these spots right there, and that would destroy the sensor. I'll try and get you a shot from the backside if that shows. So you see that window? Yeah, can I get... How's that? Well, that window is not matching up with that hole. So let's rotate this around. Okay, so we got it flipped around. And okay, I'll try to backlight it. Can you see that there's an opening there now? Whereas it didn't have that opening before. And trying to show from the inside now. Again, hard to see where that opening is, but let me put that sensor through. Just like that. See how that slips in? Because we have an opening. Now, what I had to do before, none of the spots matched up. So I had to put in a vise. I had to kind of look to see where one of these spots would match up. And I had to put a screwdriver right here and just tap it, tap it, tap it, tap it. And just kind of what I did is I looked at one of these little notches and just roughly lined it up with an ear. You could pick any one. You could pick this edge right here. That's just kind of past that edge, and you just kind of eyeball it and just give it a little tap, tap, tap until it actually found a spot where it isn't going to break the sensor. Oh boy. And again, I lucked out because I just happened to have that out. If I'd had that in there, I would have found out the hard way. So hopefully I can save you guys the headache. If you are doing a hub on one of these vehicles, I've never encountered this before. Normally when there's a proper up and down way, normally what will happen is one of these sets of holes will be longer than the other, so you'll only be able to put it in one way. But this you can put in both ways, and even still, if you get a crappy part like this, you could put it in both ways and it would still hit. It wouldn't line up. I had to adjust it. So if you're doing one of these, be forewarned, save yourself a sensor. Again, if you are doing any hub, if you can pull it out, it's always advisable to pull it out. Saves the hassle of when you're hitting things or cleaning things of accidentally breaking the sensor, it's always nice to be able to get it out of the way. Saves you the hassle of potentially damaging it, because those can be expensive. Okay, so if we look at the other side, if we look, this is kind of what I did. We follow this line straight out from the middle of this little guy right here, and it kind of matches up to roughly around there. Now if we go over here, we follow this little line, and it's definitely well into the ear. So right there, whereas this one is right there, it needs to be right there. So likewise, this one would hit that sensor, which is really bad because I can't get the sensor out on this side. It's probably going to break, so I'm going to have to carefully clean around that. So here's what we do. In hindsight, what I did is I marked where the top of that is, so we can put the corresponding mark on there. That'll make things easier. And then all I'm going to do, put this here, and I'm just going to go give it a few taps and just kind of recheck it. And I want this to be not there, but kind of over there to about there, if that makes sense. And I'll just keep checking it. So let me give that a couple taps. Okay, there you have it. If you do have something like this, doesn't take much of a hit. You don't even really need to put it in a vise. Just holding it, giving it a little tap tap and checking it. We're roughly there, over here, pretty close. That should work. But also, as I said before, even if you take the original one off, go to put it back on, if you put it on backwards or upside down, you'll still take out that sensor. So be mindful of that. Okay, so I will mention two last caveats. It is definitely advantageous if you can get these sensors out. This one was corroded in place. It felt like I would just break it if I tried to force it out. So if that's the case, if you can't get it out, you can't, even if you get this window in its proper spot, you can't push it in straight. You have to grab, use the old one, right? As you get it ready, because you see the end of this, where that window is, it kind of comes over it. I'll put an arrow. So if you were to push that straight in, you would still damage the sensor, because the sensor element has to go through there and it has to go on the inside of that lip. So if you can't get the sensor out, when you go to put this in, you kind of have to put it in an angle, hook it behind that sensor, and then you can go in. Okay, can you see that? Hopefully. On this one here, I did have to do a final adjustment with kind of it in here. I just grabbed one of those little edges there with a little pry bar and gave it a little tap to give it that last little bit, because it was the sensing element was touching that window. We don't want it to touch it. That could disrupt the signal. And then the last thing I'll mention is when you're going to put these bolts in, make sure you do a little bit, like all the way around in an X. You don't want to pull it in on an angle, because again, that can cause that window to dig into your sensor and damage your sensor. What a pain in the butt. Anyways, if you got one of these, I felt like passing it on. Let me know if you've encountered this before. Did you figure it out the hard way, or did you get lucky like me? Like I said, you know, all the other ones that I've done, if they have a certain way they need to go in, typically one side of holes will be bigger than the other, so you can physically only put it in one way. Wow, I've never had one that was this finicky to try and get it in without breaking stuff. Nissan, what can you do? Anyways, as always, just want to say thanks for watching. We'll catch you on the next one. Bye for now.